This year, 2024, marks the 40th anniversary of the release of the Bones Brigade video show, which is basically the first ever skateboarding video. Now I know these days, skateboarding video not really a big deal. I mean, anytime you see a group of skaters, they've got a GoPro or some kind of action camera, but 40 years ago, that wasn't a thing, and neither were skateboarding videos. Until one day, when Stacy Peralta's neighbor asked him if he had any interest in making a skateboarding video, and Stacy thought that it might be something that they could give to skate shops to kind of help promote the company. They didn't really think they'd be able to make any money off of this because back then, no one really had VCRs in their homes. But little did they know, shortly after making the video, VCRs would become a common household item and they would go on to sell a ton of these, and the skateboarding video was born. And so many followed. Future Primitive, Search for Animal Chin, Ban This, all the Santa Cruz videos, Hocus Pocus, there were so many, and it all started with the Bones Brigade video show. And not only was the video show the first skateboarding video, it was also responsible for introducing so many people around the world to skateboarding. Because before this, all you had was the magazines. And the magazines were great, but you would have a picture of a guy in a pose, and you didn't really know how he got there. You didn't know what happened after the picture was taken. Did he land the trick? Did he fall? But now you were able to see the entire thing, and it was awesome. And it was all thanks to the Bones Brigade video show. And so today, I'm gonna do my very best to show you as many locations as I can from the filming of the Bones Brigade video show. I'm excited, I hope you are too. So, let's go see what we can find.
This is a skateboard.
That's not a skateboard. Now this is a skateboard.
So after an intro with Stacy Peralta that was filmed at Stacy's parents' house, the real video begins. And if you're not familiar with the Bones Brigade video show, or maybe you've never seen it, the basic idea is it's a day in the life with Lance Mountain, following him as he skates around Los Angeles, and the stuff that he sees on his journey works as transitions into other parts of the video. So since it's a day in the life of Lance Mountain, the video begins right here at this house, the former residence of Lance Mountain. It starts with a tight shot of this chimney. We see Lance's board come flying over the chimney, and then Lance climbs up onto the roof from the backyard. He then rolls down the roof and jumps off the end at the corner right there, landing in this area. Now at the time, this garage wasn't here. This was just a big open area, and it looked a lot different. You were able to see the entire side of the house. If you wanted to jump off the corner of the roof, you really wouldn't be able to do it anymore because there's stairs there now. There's this little wall on the side of the driveway, so it's not really possible. I was gonna do it. I wanted to recreate it for all of you, but you know, what can I do? Like I said, it's not possible. My hands are tied. Sorry. We see Lance come skating down this alley, and the way that we know that this is the spot is by the church that you can see behind him, which is now pretty much completely covered by these trees. But the church is still there and still looks the same. If we come over onto the other side, you can see there's the church, and like I said, it still looks the same. And also, here's the church, and then right across the street, this building can also be seen in the video. But the trees in this area have just pretty much consumed this whole block. Now, right over here was a building that was about to be torn down, and Lance hops the fence and meets up with Eddie Radke and Steve Stedham and has a quick pool session. Now, like I said in the video, the building is about to be torn down, so obviously it's no longer here. It's since been replaced with this apartment building. But right here is where that pool was. This large red house is now sitting on what was the empty lot where Lance does the boneless. However, the house on the corner that you can see in the video, that's still here, and luckily it still looks relatively the same. This corner has changed a lot in the last 40 years. Now keep in mind that Venice Beach looks a lot different since they ripped out the pavilion and added the skate park. Once Lance arrives at Venice Beach, he spots Per Willander with a small crowd around him, and he's putting on a freestyle show. The funny thing is, these were filmed on different days. Lance and Per Willander were never at Venice Beach at the same time. So I wonder what Lance is watching. Maybe the breakdancers?
Breaking is a memory.
Right around the corner from the church that we see earlier in the video, a bit later we see Lance skating down the sidewalk. He then heads up a bank before ducking underneath some palm tree leaves. Now that was located at roughly 750 Catalina Street. Unfortunately, the school that was here has been completely renovated and that bank no longer exists. However, we can still pinpoint the exact spot where Lance heads up the bank by this manhole cover in the middle of the sidewalk. Now this is kind of weird. Manholes are usually out in the middle of the street. I've never seen one in the middle of the sidewalk like this. But if you pay attention in the video, Lance heads up the bank just before he gets to this manhole cover. So this is pretty much the exact spot where Lance heads up the bank. The video cuts to a bride and her bridesmaids standing outside of a church when the bride all of a sudden notices a camera pointing at her from off in the distance, and she understandably gets a little weirded out by this. The camera then zooms out and we see Lance, Tony, Stevie, and some others walking up a hill to a ditch that's on the side of the church. Well, right behind me is that church, and the ditch is still here, but the bad news is there's now a gate and security, and you really can no longer get to that ditch. Lance was actually telling me that he tried to revisit this ditch a few years back, and when he got here, the gate was open because someone had just gone in, but once he got into the parking lot, it only took a few seconds for someone to stop him. So the ditch is still here, but unfortunately, it's no longer skatable. This is now Los Angeles Historic State Park, which didn't exist 40 years ago. Back then, you had railroad tracks running through here. And although the tracks are gone, there's still a few things that you can match up. That bridge that you can see behind him has also been torn down, but it would have been right over here in this area. This is where Lance is doing the rail slide. Lance skates up to a parking block that's in the parking lot of a Carl's Jr., does a quick trick, and then sits down on the parking block. Well, that parking block is no longer here, and they've now put a patch of dirt so you can no longer skate into the parking lot from the sidewalk. However, that Carl's Jr. is still here, although it's been remodeled, and that apartment building behind the Carl's Jr., you can see that in the video, and it still looks the same. But roughly, right about here is where the parking block was that Lance Mountain sits down on, and he picks up a skateboarding magazine that happens to be laying there, and that skateboarding magazine works as a segue into Rodney Mullen. Rodney then moves to a park that's just a couple of blocks away, and that was Pershing Square. And as you can see, it's had a full renovation since 1984, and absolutely nothing here still looks the same. Even the pigeon guy's gone. So after Lance is done reading the magazine, he tosses it aside, gets up, and skates down the sidewalk. And when he does, you can see a McDonald's across the street. That McDonald's is also still there, however, it's also been remodeled. The shop that Lance goes into is Rip City in Santa Monica, which opened in 1978, and today it's the oldest continuously operated skate shop in the world. It was originally opened by cousins Bill and Jim, and Bill is still running the shop today. All of this right here, this used to be the Del Mar Skate Ranch, one of the most legendary skate parks of the 1980s. And we see Del Mar not only in the video show, but in other skateboarding videos, as well as the movie Thrashin'.
Did Del Mar, did you? Yeah, I did that one.
But that segment where Lance sees the Tony Hawk skateboard and then it segues into Tony skating the pool, that pool was right here at Del Mar. Here we see Lance skating down La Cienega Boulevard, away from Beverly Boulevard, and skating past a pretty famous hot dog stand called Tail of the Pup. Now, as you can see, Tail of the Pup is no longer here. However, they kept that original building in storage for many years, and it's now reopened in a new location. Now on Santa Monica Boulevard, just west of La Cienega Boulevard, this is the original Tail of the Pup hot dog stand building. So this isn't the same location where Lance is skating, but this is the same hot dog stand that he skates by. Now this gas station is one of the spots that I really wanted to find, but there's not a lot of clues in the video. Now according to Lance, he told me that he remembers it being on the east side of Melrose. But I searched up and down Melrose in the area where he remembers it being, and I couldn't find anything. So I'm pretty sure that it's long gone. However, if you recognize this gas station, let me know. All of the stores in this next segment were located on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood, and all of them have changed since the filming of the video show. Some of the buildings have changed drastically since then. So as Lance's night comes to an end, we see him skating down this very stretch of street, skating right past the former mansion of Phil Spector. He then skates up to his front door and heads inside. Good night, Mr. Mountain. But that's not the end of our video. I mean, I knew this hill was big, but I didn't realize quite how crazy it is. Can we get a stunt skater over here? After the downhill segment, we see the Mountain family crest, which used to hang right here. Now obviously it no longer hangs in this spot because the Mountain family no longer lives here. We then see Lance, Mike, and Stevie getting ready for a vert ramp session on Lance's backyard halfpipe, which used to be located right here in Lance's backyard. Let's go check it out. I can't believe I'm walking down the same set of stairs that so many legendary skateboarders once walked down to get to Lance's ramp. And you can see where the bridge used to be. Unfortunately, it's no longer here. It's so crazy to think that not just this session, but so many legendary sessions that weren't caught on tape took place right here in this backyard. Right down there in that big empty spot, that's where Lance Mountain's halfpipe once stood. Now it's just a memory. For the scene with Rodney Mullen on the flat ground with the banks around him, once again, we're back here at the former location of the Del Mar Skate Ranch. It's now an industrial business center, but this used to be the Upland Pipeline Skate Park, which is featured briefly in the video show. Now, the actual part that used to be the skate park has all been bulldozed and replaced with business space. However, that building is the original pro shop, and all of this right here has not changed. This is the original stone, and on top of it is where the Pipeline Skate Park sign used to sit. Now, according to one source, inside of the old pro shop, there's still a bunch of relics. Okay, so I thought I'd try and look inside of the old pro shop. This side, the windows are all covered up, but if we come around to the back side, you can see through one of the doors. And the first thing you can see right there is an old arcade game. And then, all right, this is gonna be really hard to make out with the camera, but let me try. Check that out. So I'm wondering if there's anything else in there from back in the day. The next segment in the video is the infamous Broken Bones Brigade, a compilation of slams, something that Stacy continued to do in all of his skate videos. And I thought, why not add to it with my own beef?
Oh, God.
Hey, God.
Definitely not as bad as some of the other slams in the Bones Brigade video show, but hey, my sock did get soaked with blood, and it even left a little scar. The last segment in the video takes place on Grandview at the bottom of the hill about a block down from Lance's house, and it features Mike, Steve, and Lance skating on a curb and just messing around having a good time. At the end of the video, there's a bunch of random clips, and there's one clip that shows Lance and Stacy messing around in front of Lance's house, and some of that footage was used in the nightmare scene in The Search for Animal Chin. Now that's the end of the original video, but if you have the DVD, it features an alternate version of the Bones Brigade video show with footage never before seen. Here's just a few different scenes from some of that bonus footage. We also see more of Rodney Mullen, this time on Wilshire Boulevard. You can see a little bit of this curb, which now has these skate stoppers on it. You can also see that building behind him with the large address sticking out, 3325. You also see this lamppost and this tree, which has since gotten a lot bigger in the last 40 years. And across the street, you can see that building on the corner, which at the time was the Sherman Clay Piano Building. We also get more of Lance skating on Hollywood Boulevard at Highland Avenue in Hollywood, California. This parking lot is where the Hollywood and Highland Mall is now located. And we're now back on Grandview at the bottom of Lance's neighborhood. This is at the top of Grandview, in between Lance's house and the Phil Spector mansion, and this is coming down Grandview towards the bottom of the hill. This is an alternate version of that backflip on the tree. And now we're finally at Stacy's old stomping grounds, Kenter Canyon Elementary School. At the very end of the alternate version of the video show, we see Stacy skating down the sidewalk past the playground at Kenter Canyon, a playground that's now pretty well covered by trees and bushes. We then see Stacy climbing the fence into the playground. Not too much has changed here, except for more of those trees and bushes. And then finally, we see Stacy skating the playground. Well, that's gonna do it for this video, and I had an absolute blast putting this one together. I really hope some of you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.